Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peter Likes Books, where I read all the books. I love all the books. Well, I don't read all the books, but I love books over here. And I love mysteries and thrillers. And for those of you that do not know, I have two book clubs over here. I have a true crime book club that I run with my good friend Mel. Hey Mel, how are you? My good Judy Mel. Tomorrow is our live stream for November. It is at 4 p.m. Eastern time, and we are discussing the September and the October books for a true crime book club. And we are also discussing the true crime documentaries for September and October. It's not too late to watch those documentaries. So the documentaries are Taken Together and The Real Murders on Elm Street, which I have 2 episodes left to watch before tomorrow. So the live stream is tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern time. It is all off of the Facebook group. So all you have to do is go over to the Facebook group, which is listed below, join the group, and then you can participate in the live stream. So I'm really excited about that. I got all those books done. I'm all caught up on all that. And I've been like walking again, so I'm getting into all my books, getting back to my books. But I also have Peter's Book Club, which is where every month I just pick a book for all of us to read together, and then I do a reaction to it. But I got several months behind on the books. And in fact, just a couple days ago, I did my reaction to the August book, which was Liz Moore's The God of the Woods. So if you guys want to go watch my reaction to that, it's the last video that I posted over here. But I'm trying to get caught up on both book clubs, okay? So True Crime Book Club, I'm completely caught up. I'm to the November books and the November, well, I've already watched the November True Crime documentary, but I have the November book to read for True Crime Book Club. For Peter's Book Club, I just started it last night. I am 5 minutes into listening to it, and that is the October book for Peter's Book Club. And once I finish this book, which is the new Laura Dave book, once I finish that book, then I'm completely caught up, and then I just have the November book. And then I also mentioned previously, like 2 months ago, like 3 cozy mystery series or 2 cozy mystery series. I have them all written down that we're going to read together. So I'm also going to read the first ones in both of those series, and then I'm completely caught up. I've done the assignments, and I'm completely caught up. But last night, I finished the September book for Peter's Book Club, which is called We Used to Live Here, and it is by Kliewer, and it came out just this summer, June 18th of 2024. It's 312 pages. I started it 2 nights ago, and I finished it last night. Last night, I walked for a very long time, and when I came home, I had like 15 minutes left of it, and I finished it last night. So I wanted to come over here today, because if I wait 2 or 3 days, then, and I'm into another book, then I won't remember what I wanted to say. So I wanted to do my reaction to it right after I finish the book. So before I get into this, I want to give you the synopsis of the book, okay? We Used to Live Here by Kliewer. Here is the synopsis. Get Out meets Parasite in this eerily haunting debut and Reddit hit, soon to be a Netflix original movie starring Blake Lively, about 2 homeowners whose lives are turned upside down when the house's previous residents unexpectedly visit. As a young queer couple who flips houses, Charlie and Eve can't believe the killer deal they've just gotten on an old house in a picturesque neighborhood. As they're working in the house one day, there's a knock on the door. A man stands there with his family, claiming to have lived there years before and asking if it would be all right if he showed his kids around. People pleaser to a fault, Eve lets them in. As soon as the strangers enter their home, uncanny and inexplicable things start happening, including the family's youngest child going missing and a ghostly presence materializing in the basement. Even more weird, the family can't seem to take the hint that their visit should be over. And when Charlie suddenly vanishes, Eve, that's the partner, Eve slowly loses her grip on reality. Something is terribly wrong with the house and with the visiting family. Or is Eve just imagining things? And it has a collective Goodreads ratings of 3.77, and it has 62,214 ratings, which is a lot since it just came out in June. This book is getting a lot of hype right now. A lot of people are talking about it. And, you know, I'm on several groups on Facebook that are like best thrillers, best psychological thrillers, best horror thrillers, and things like that. And it's interesting because I see very, very polarizing reviews of this book. And I tried not to like read a lot of the details, so I would just see people like originally post it, and they'd be like, I don't really understand why this book is getting so much hype. Can somebody explain it to me? Or the other side would be, oh my God, I couldn't put this book down. It was unbelievable. I'll be honest with you, I have kind of both feelings about that. I actually gave it a rating of a 3 out of 5. which in all honesty is kind of low for me. And a lot of different factors went into that. I thought it was very well written. I thought it was really, I just thought that the writing of it kept me intrigued. The problem is the end of the book for me, okay? And if you've read the book, you'll know what I'm talking about. So I am going to probably give some spoilers because that's what I do over here when I review a book. So if you're wanting to read this book, I would probably tell you to stop the video right now. But I will tell you, this would not be a book that I would recommend to anybody, okay? So first of all, I read it while I was walking. And both times that I was walking, it was like at night when I was listening to it. And so this book is supposed to be really, really scary. The book didn't really scare me a lot, in all honesty, and I was looking for a good scare. I mean, I was walking like down like roads that had like trees hanging over and leaves and stuff like that. Well, I started it while it was still light, but I finished it when, you know, like finished reading it late at night, like both nights when it was like dark outside. And neither time was I really that scared reading it, which should be, I mean, I get scared pretty easily about reading books and watching TV shows. So it's about this couple and, these two women, they've just bought this house. Now, it's interesting that it says picturesque neighborhood because in the book, they make it out like it's on the side of this mountain, okay? And it kind of like, that kind of changes throughout time. There's so much that's introduced to this book that I got to the end of it. Well, so, okay, it's about this, so this, her partner is home. So Eva's home, and she's waiting for her partner, it's a Friday night, for her partner Charlie to come home from work. And then they're gonna just like eat pizza and drink beer and, you know, watch TV and watch movies and stuff like that. Well, she gets a knock at the door, and it's this guy, and his name is Thomas. And he used to live in their house, and he wants to show his kids around and his wife around to the old house that he lived in. And so she's very hesitant to do it. And she even fakes like she calls her partner Charlie on the phone, and Charlie's like very hesitant about it and whatever, but she eventually lets them come in. Well, once they come in, it's like this comedy of errors. Like the youngest daughter, Jenny, is like playing, it's called instant hide and seek, and she goes down the basement, she's like in this crawl space. And then, so then she comes up, and then Charlie comes home, and she invites them to stay for dinner, and then they stay for dinner, and then a snowstorm hits, and I knew when the snowstorm hit that they weren't going anywhere for the night. And so then they can't get out anywhere because the bridge goes down. Now, this is where it's like, I do not love books that have untrustworthy narrators because you don't know, like, am I in the middle of, like, Grotesquerie, the TV show, is very similar to this. If you didn't like Grotesquerie, the TV show, then you would not like this book. You don't really ever know what's going on. And I would say about a third way through the book, you start really questioning, like, is this like The Others with Nicole Kidman? Like, are they dead? Are the other people dead? Like, who's dead? Somebody's dead, okay? Or is she in, like, a coma? Or is she in, like, in a mental health facility and she's, like, dreaming all of this? Like, what is going on? Something is going on because a lot of it doesn't make sense. And the first thing that didn't make sense to me was, well, first of all, this weird family that comes in and they start noticing things. He starts noticing things that are different. But then they stay overnight, and the next morning, she can't find her phone, okay? Her partner, Charlie, has left for work, but the bridge was closed the night before, which is why they couldn't leave. So all of a sudden, she can now go to town when the night before, the reason they couldn't leave. And then he says that he's staying because of the weather. And so then she goes to a neighbor's house, which they introduced this neighbor that knew him and babysat him when he was a child. And you think that the neighbor's going to be a big part of the book, but then they never bring the neighbor up again. They bring her up kind of like, oh, I went to the neighbor's house, but they don't bring her up again. What's interesting to me about this book, and also Liz Moore's, to read a thriller, for me to I think the first book that I read this year was Listen for the Lie, and I loved it. But for me to read a thriller or a horror novel, like Grady Hendrix, I love most of his books. I did not love How to Sell a Haunted House, but that's like the only book of his I don't like. For me to read like a thriller or a horror novel and get really into it, like there has to be some kind of conclusive ending to it that makes sense. And I thought this book was going to do it. I mean, I stayed the duration. I will say this, I never really got bored listening to this book. I mean, I was intrigued by the book, but it's because I was like, okay, prove me like wrong or right about what it's going to be at the end of it. And at the end of it, you don't really know they play all these, or they show all these documents throughout the book. Apparently people are saying the book is better than the audio, but they read the documents in there about all these different cases of people going missing, and then people then they don't really exist, and then people coming forward and they don't really exist. And so you don't know, it's like this, it's different dimensions or different realities, or they're dead, or you don't know. There's no conclusive ending to this book whatsoever. In fact, the book ends, and it's like all of a sudden it just switches. She's in this house again. Okay, for example, this is like the things that switch. There's so much is introduced that this book needed major editing in a way that it never received, okay? For example, they like switch these windows out, okay? And so there's this stained glass window that all of a sudden she and her partner both notice that the stained glass window is gone and it's now replaced with this regular window. But the regular window has been there for a while, so it wasn't Thomas and his family that replaced it. So they know that something's going on. At the same time, they go in and out of these houses. There's like this cabin that she goes to at one point. And she keeps on seeing these messages that are like, make sure you know what house you're in. But there's no conclusive evidence to why those messages were ever given. It's like the TV show Lost. Stuff is introduced and never explained. There's no explanation to the end of this book. This book, for me, if it had had a conclusive ending at the end of it, like if it had been anything, like I really thought, I'm going to get to the end of this book, and the reason why people are saying it's really that bad is I thought, I'm going to get to the end of this book, and then it's going to be some cheat at the end of this book. Like, she's been dead from the very beginning, and these people are actually all alive, which would have been a better ending than what you got. Because what you get is, towards the end of it, all of a sudden she comes up, and Thomas, his family is now living in her house, and she's like, what is going on? And he starts calling her Emma and says that she's his sister. And she's like, I'm Eve, but then she plays along with it. And then she like stabs his wife, Paige, and then the police show up, and then she gets taken in, and then she's basically like arrested as his sister. So now, but she's like, I know I'm Eve, and they're like, Eve never existed, and they even check with her parents, which goes back to a story of these two kids that were like in this house on a dare, and then one of them's comatose or catatonic, and the other one comes out of it, and he doesn't, like, there's no history of him ever even existing in this world. And so at the very end, she basically is just like her ex doesn't know her. I mean, she knows her because they broke up, but she's like, nothing that you're saying is true. And then at the very end, it's like her ex, Charlie, is saying that she showed up at the house one day, and the house was abandoned. It was like overnight, and the house was abandoned, and her partner Eve wasn't there, and her family and friends and everything said that there was no Eve. So it's like, can somebody please explain to me what the purpose of this book was? Like, I'm so confused. There was no conclusive ending to this book. And I was really, really disappointed, because I was really hoping I mean, this was the problem with it, okay, for me. And I know that people are going to be like, well, what you didn't get was this. The book was so well written. I mean, the descriptions and everything were so well done. There were so many fantastic literary references in there. For example, there's this motel that she and her girlfriend go and stay in, okay? That Charlie and Eve go stay in, this hotel down the street, which was abandoned, but now it's open, okay? So they go stay in this hotel at the time. And this is at the point where you're like, is this a mental health thing? What's going on? When they go into the hotel room, it was divisive things like this that were really, really important to the novel that made me realize the writer is probably better than he realizes, but the ending is horrible. It almost felt like it was a rush job, like he had to just get the ending done. Because they walk into the hotel room, and she starts describing the hotel room, and she starts going into the wallpaper, the yellow wallpaper, and she describes the yellow wallpaper. Well, for any of you out there that have short story readers or took English lit classes or, American lit classes, there's a short story called The Yellow Wallpaper. It's a very famous story. It's a very famous story about mental health. And, I mean, I think, like, everybody has to read it in high school or college, right? It's like English 101, you read it. And so when there was that reference, then I was like, oh my God, now all these things I thought all along were references to other stories in the past, other horror novels, other scary stories. Shirley Jackson, who wrote The Lottery, she's referenced a lot through the book. There's a lot of references to famous literature, okay? Famous original, like, Southern horror. And, I mean, I'm talking about from like 100 years ago. Faulkner is referenced in this book. I mean, there's a lot of references to this. To then at the very end have this very unending, kind of confusing, it's almost kind of like the author thought of himself in a way as Faulkner, because, like, not the book As I Lay Dying, what's the book? A Sound and a Fury, where it's told from all these different sides, and it's very confusing for people to read sometimes because they don't know what's going on. It very much felt like The Sound and the Fury to me, almost kind of like he emulated that model a little bit. But even at the end of The Sound and the Fury, you understand what's going on. At the end of this novel, I was confused, and I felt like I had wasted my time. I felt like my time was wasted reading this book. And I hope that you don't feel the same way. And I'll be honest with you, like I was going to go in and I was going to, like, Google search what was the ending of this. If I have to watch a TV show or read a book where somebody has to explain the ending to me, I'm not stupid, okay? I'm not stupid. If somebody has to explain the ending to me, then the book tried to be smarter than it actually was. And a thriller at that, or a horror novel, should not be smarter than its premise. It shouldn't be so smart that the average person can't pick it up and read it and enjoy it. If it's that smart, then it is way overachieved its purpose. And I just didn't enjoy it. And I'll tell you why I gave it a 3. I gave it a 3 because I thought that it was really well written. I was very intrigued, but when I got to like towards the very end, I was like, there's going to be no conclusive ending to this book. And I was disappointed. So for the effort and the time and the storytelling, this book could have been phenomenal. This book could have been phenomenal. And I know the author's probably sitting there going, well, the point of this book was to leave the ending being ambiguous. That was the point of the book, okay? Well, it's very much like Project Runway. When you're standing there in a dress and you have to explain the purpose of your dress, then the dress has not met the assignment, okay? And when your book is so ambiguous at the end and that's the point of your book, then the book has missed the mark, all right? And I would rather read a thriller where I walked away and I was like, damn, that ending was good. That surprised the hell out of me, you know? Than to walk away and go, huh? Like, what did I just read? And I walked away going, huh? What did I just read? 3 stars was generous. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.